All right, everyone, now we have major political news, which is that Howard Schultz, the former CEO of Starbucks, self-made multi-fucking millionaire, extremely rich individual, might run as an independent in 2020. Now, most independent candidacies don't gain a lot of traction. Here's what I would say, though. If Howard Schultz, because he's encapsulated his possible run, he hasn't decided yet. I think he's testing the waters. I mean, he doesn't have any illusions about winning. If you're running an independent candidacy, you don't expect to win. You're doing it for some ideological reason. The Democrats are begging him not to get in because they're convinced that it's going to rob votes from them. Like, Trump's core fan base is not going to rob them. I think that they're wrong, and actually it could be just as much an impediment to Trump, even if he runs a liberal-ish campaign. But that's just my fucking feeling. What he will do, if he's smart, if he actually wants to get like a double-digit total, be a spoiler, be famous for it, be the next Ross Perot or something, here's my advice. Do what Trump did, or what some of the other upstart candidates are doing, and massively differentiate yourself, browbeat the lame establishment. And if you do that, you'll get some votes. You'll definitely be in the millions of votes across the country, because there will be a strong protest vote of Republicans that are never Trumpers, Democrats that are never whatever candidate emerges there, and third-partyists who say, well, you know, Schultz sounds good or whatever, just like there will be bleeding, hemorrhaging votes from the Democrats to the Greens, the Republicans to the Libertarian Party constitutionalist movement. We've seen that it happened in the last election. The Libertarian Party managed to hit double digits in a few states, and got certainly, I think it was above at least 4 or 5% in every state. We're talking a lot of voters. That's a lot of people that were pissed off at the candidates. Now, Trump will probably go into the next election less popular than he was in the last one. And the Democrats will probably coronate a neoliberal that will alienate the youth vote, or a leftist candidate like a Harris or a Sanders that will alienate the whole Rust Belt, give it to the Republicans, and let Trump get reelected. The Democrats have to be very careful, but if Howard Schultz gets in, he could very well be a spoiler and only get 2-3% of the vote. And that would be really funny, and he can do it too, because he's got the money. How much money does he have? How many tens or hundreds of millions? Maybe he's a billionaire, I'm not actually sure. Now, he's coming out of nowhere. Which means he'd have to spend through the nose for an elaborate advertising campaign. But again, this is the internet era. Trump got all sorts of ads for free just by saying freaky shit. What could an independent candidate who shoots out of a cannon without even announcing, and it's like, oh my god, Howard Schultz this, he's going to be a spoiler, he's the next Ross Perot, he's going to give 2020 to Trump, oh my god. He's got people upset just by considering. If he actually gets in and gets any significant coverage at all he has to do is make sure that the lame establishment media doesn't do what it typically does to independents that it obviously doesn't like. It wants the Democrats to win. What it will do is try to starve him for attention. Say weird shit. Rail against censorship online. Some of the alt media would probably support such a bid. At the very least, it would cause political chaos, which is amusing as well to a lot of independent content creators. Hey, it's good for me if there's political chaos. I get to talk about it. If things are boring, it's like, well, it's a slow news day. Let me make another garden update. Oh, I just made one. Well, what should I do now? I guess I better edit another book. That's basically... There are a lot of us that are kind of in that boat of content creation. It would be very, very nice, actually, if he runs. I hope he does. I don't know that much about his platform, ostensibly, again, a little bit more on the business liberal side. I do know that, but I don't know his specific feelings on, like, are you pro-choice, pro-life, or whatever. He's saying both parties suck. That's a good way, that's a dog whistle to the Democrats. Hey, I fucking hate you more because I'm going to be a spoiler. The incumbent is the Republican. And you'd think, you know, maybe the challenger doesn't do so well because he robs votes of them protest votes. Again, the Democrats, though, I will say this. If there's a strong protest vote towards Schultz or, you know, maybe hippie grandma, you know, runs again for the Green Party. What's her name? I can't remember. I remember her face and the fact that she got arrested for, what was it, chaining herself to a bulldozer at the oil pipeline there. That was pretty funny. Jill Stein, that's her name. Or the Libertarians, you know, if they have... You know, a candidate like Johnson, they'll get some Democratic votes because he was basically pretending to be a libertarian at the last point. He's basically just pot-smoking, open borders, left libertarian, so he probably did take more votes from Hillary than Trump. It was very funny, especially considering how many votes it was compared to... It's more votes than I think the LP has gotten in all of the other elections combined. Fairly significant growth. What I would say, though, is that if the Democrats are really worried, it's just a sign that they expect to do poorly because they're going to shit on their own people by using superdelegates and their bureaucracy, the in-party sort of slimeball system to coronate a neoliberal. To coronate somebody that the vast majority of voters will want. And look, Here's a problem. And this is a problem for both political parties that's looming. Here's a political prediction. Take it to the bank. As communication becomes more and more decentralized and democratized, as more and more people weigh in more and more often, you're going to get candidates who take advantage of that communication structure to say weird out there stuff to gain support. It will be hardened support. The problem with the problem with politics as it's been is that within parties you have multiple candidates. You don't have like one extreme charismatic figurehead who 90% of your party loves, and so it's like unanimously agreed upon. Don't even have a primary. He's already won or she's already won or something. You don't really have that. You have divisive politics. Wedge issue politics. That means white and black, male and female, gay and straight, pro-gun, anti-gun, all of these things. What you're going to see is more schismatic movements, even in the Republicans, over time, if nothing else changes. If the trajectory of communications technology continues unabated for another decade, that's what you'll see. Because the problem is that people get into those little cults of personality and they won't support any other candidate. They're more likely to not vote or protest vote for their candidate even if they lose. We saw this with Sanders. There were a significant number of people, millions of voters, within the Democratic Party who did not back Hillary Clinton because Bernie Sanders was not the candidate. They voted ideologically, or they voted for his personality. There were probably people that would fall under that category for some of the Republican candidates too. If someone was more on the Bible side, more on the, pro-war, God's guns and the Bible side, and they love Ted Cruz or what's his name there, who ended up becoming head of HUD there, I can't remember his name. Oh my God, I'm getting Alzheimer's, it's terrible. Old age is a horrible thing. No, there were probably people who refused to support Trump specifically because of that. Because Trump is he's basically a business Democrat who's pro-gun. Marginally pro-gun at this point. You're going to see this more and more because of the way in which the internet literally functions. That's why the lame establishment is trying to crush the alt media. Because we help contribute to the fact that that happens. Inadvertently, in many cases, it's like, I'm game, I'm not really a partisan, it's not a big problem. There are a lot of people that are, though. They're like really, really far out there. They're like, this candidate, I'll follow them to death. Rand Paul fans, some of them are like that. I like Rand Paul, but I wouldn't die for him, so, it's one of those situations. People tend to look at it as, they get into it like Raiders fans at a football game. It's like, we're going to riot if we win or if we lose. That's basically what it amounts to. And so Howard Schultz getting in, yeah, it might be a spoiler. But which way is it a spoiler? Does it rob Trump of more votes? Because he can choose. Because you have that heavily divergent ideological spectrum that we now have, where the left has gone far left, the right has been nudged at least a little bit out of center-right territory on some issues. And that is true, by the way. It's the left primarily that's going crazy right now. They're leaning on towards socialism, veering off towards left field, which is why they're suffering more schismatic problems. Because you've got business Democrats. They actually exist. He can insert himself anywhere on that spectrum and choose who to rob. And so he could go far right. He could say, well, the Democrats, I hate both parties, but the Democrats are worse. And so, yeah, Trump's okay on some things. And he could wine and dine sort of the never-Trumpers by doing that. Or he could say, well, Trump is out to lunch. He's fucking crazy. He's Alzheimer's ridden. The Democrats are better, but blah, blah, blah. And here's my views on the issue. Oddly enough, by attacking sort of the Trumpite side, he would gain more Democratic votes and actually hurt them. And so he actually has to do like a little bit of reverse psychology. If his intent is to be spoiler, as I predict it probably is, and to simply he gains street cred for being an independent, he gains notoriety, he could get donations, he could actually defer much of the cost, potentially, if he makes a serious run. He gets into the history books. Maybe he's just looking for fame at this point. If that is indeed his intent, whoever he starts going after more is actually the group that he favors. It's reverse psychology, because, obviously he'll understand some degree. As a businessman, a successful businessman, he understands strategy in that sense a little bit, I'm sure. So yeah, keep an eye out for that if he runs, and it's not guaranteed yet. That's about all. Peace out.